Well, welcome to my latest project, a low-tech peace lily aquarium with neon tetras. Well, let's jump right in. I cut out a piece of foam mat that I bought a while back from Harbor Freight to go under the tank, and I also painted the back of the tank with Plasti-Dip spray paint. I'm using dirt substrate that came from an established tank in the greenhouse, which is where the sand, the tannin water, and aged leaves, and the plants came from also. I put about a ½ inch of dirt at the bottom and capped it with 1½ inches of aged sand, and then 1/2 of an inch of clean sand on top. Hey, check out these containers I found at Lowe's. I thought they would be a good container for catching and observing fish, maybe just an extra container for tank maintenance, and I bet I could even turn one into a Riparium planter. Well, after planting a few sprigs of Dwarf Sagittaria, I began filling up the tank with tannin water, about halfway, and then I decided to check the water parameters, and it appears that the nitrate levels are too high, but the pH is lower than the usual 7.6 tap water, which means the tannins in the water are lowering the pH, which is what we want anyway for a BLACKWATER tank. I'll be sure to do another water test before I add fish. To hold the peace lily, I'm using a custom-sized DIY planter made from egg crate panel. To learn how I build different types of custom Riparium planters, check out the video link in the description below. I put lava rocks in a hang-on-the-back filter for beneficial bacteria housing, and I was able to place the filter behind the peace lilies and still have easy access to the intake and the pre-filter. Man, that works great. It's perfectly hidden. After filling up the tank the rest of the way with a mixture of distilled and tap water, I began adding leaves, which originally were collected from a creek behind my neighborhood, but I've been keeping them in a tank in my greenhouse for several weeks now. I also collected some dry leaves from my backyard to represent the different stages of leaf decomposition. I then set small driftwood and dried sticks in place and added Amazon frog bit with some duckweed to the surface. Before adding the neons a few days later, I did a partial water change and tested the parameters again. Normally I would let this tank cycle for a few weeks, but since I'm using materials from an already established tank, the fish can be added sooner. I acclimated the fish to the BLACKWATER by adding small amounts of it to the bag over the course of about 3 hours. Since my tap water has a high pH, I'm keeping several gallons of distilled water on hand to do water changes and top-offs with. I'm even thinking about keeping a container of the water and leaves in the greenhouse so that I always have more tannin water ready to use for this tank. Well, it doesn't happen every time, but I have to admit, this turned out exactly as I imagined it. My only regret is that I didn't use a bigger tank. Well, that can be a project for another time. But be sure to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and smash that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think. Well, I'll see you in the next video, and remember, it's still all about the plants.